Hi, everybody. Robert Ogilvie, executive strategist and EQ coach. Glad you guys could join me. Sorry if you watched that past video, we had some kind of technical issue. Anyway, let's redo it. Today, we are talking about the critical differences between strategic management, innovation management, and change management. So if you don't know the answer yet to this, that's okay. It's kind of somewhat technical. I bet implicitly you might actually already have a sense of this. But let me just try to boil it down for you. Strategic management or strategic planning is around trying to kind of get your head on straight around the business case, the business model of what you're doing, because you've scanned the environment, and then kind of making a good plan and executing it. It's very focused on control in some sense. You can map out something well, which is kind of worth doing. Innovation management is really around new products, new solutions, that you can make something cool, new and differentiated, and that you can probably really swiftly and cheaply build a reasonable product that is, it doesn't have to hit everyone, but it does something great probably for a few people. Last is change management, which is everything that's around people and processes. We'll get into more the kind of gaps that's built to address. But yeah, strategy, innovation, and change management, all very different things. So, why would we use one or the other? Okay, start with the first one. Strategic management or strategic planning. It's a ton of planning rubrics. It's a bit of stuff too around scanning the environment and getting a sense of what's going on. And so it's Porter's Five Forces, SWOT, PESTLE, a few other things to kind of get a sense of what's happening. And then it's a lot of planning rubrics. I'll go through some of the techniques so you can start to get a flavor for some of this. One important one, and they use this all the time in the military, is scenario planning. And that's when you might envision the details around this or that possible future outcome. You might look at a few different ones at once and see which ones you would prefer, right? Or in some sense, kind of a decision-making rubric. If these are my options in front of me, which would I pick, right? And that's also kind of the essence of a lot of this. Like if we can get our heads on straight in terms of situational awareness of what's actually happening, it should, the way they're framing it is it should be reasonably clear what you should go after. Now, I would say if you talk to someone like Mintzberg, he's going to underscore, it's like, listen, this strategy is by its nature super divergent and creative. It is thinking work. So if you want to make this around rubric, that's all well and good, but that's just a planning process. That's how you're going to implement and do the work. The raw, intellectual goo of this is like, think of good ideas. What's going to serve your strategic needs? What's going to help you? And that is very hard to pin down, rightly so. Let me give you a sense of some of the other techniques that you also use. So again, you're looking at markets, so you're looking at like how much margin you can figure out for how much margin you can get for your solution and how mature that market is. So is it is it on the way up or is it on the way down? That has to do with market maturity. Porter's Five Forces is trying to figure out how well you could be substituted or a new entrant could easily come in or not, and then your relationship between like buyers and sellers or buyers and suppliers, as it would call them. It's also under the set of things you would deal with like scorecards. So the good thing about scorecards is they're trying to lay out a lot of KPIs, but also give you a sense of which ones are important. So I think the classic one they do, but there's lots of different scorecards you can use. Has something like sales and revenue in, but also customers, like training and development and like new products, and I think the most further back one, maybe they're calling it like process improvement or something like that. But the point of all that is that these occur in different time frames, which is to say if your goal was just to move more units, that happens very differently than if it's like build a whole new product and sell to a whole new market, right? Or improve some massive internal process, right? So if you get a sense of the timelines they're working under, it helps you know where to put your attention. And also if you're looking at, again, many dozens or hundreds of KPIs at once, if you use this kind of like red, yellow, or a green, yellow, red kind of stoplights kind of analogy, traffic lights analogy, it's a good way to kind of highlight and visualize, well, listen, I have 100 data points right now. What's the half a dozen I really need to pay attention to? So they're trying to manage your attention, your sense of priorities. And then there's any kind of planning rubric or like here's what we've decided kind of model would fall under strategic planning, right? So if anyone has ever drawn you like a back of the envelope kind of business model for something, that's like strategic planning stuff, right? That stuff is really important. If you look at Peter Senge's stuff around learning organizations, particularly as we get more and more subtle and intellectual and intangible, but the nature of our work, we need to get better at communicating, right? And so shared mental models are really important. So the ability to not just like communicate some strategy, but communicate it simply in a compelling way that makes sense, like that's actually super important, right? And that actually becomes then a big leadership skill. So, and anyway, so I would say of these three categories, I think strategic planning is the most robust because it's the one that's most on pulse of the overall business model and business situation. But anyway, so they all make sense for different reasons. Let's go to the next category. Innovation management. That's really about making amazing new products that someone wants to do, that really help someone and someone wants to pay a lot of money for. So really, it's about trying to start as simply and easily as possible, quickly learning your lessons, generally with early adopters and whatever target market you're going after. And the way you beat the big guys is that they die a death of 1,000 cuts because you pick a niche of a niche that you can do excellently well and very scalable, and you build something to do that, right? So it's under innovation management, we would look at notions like product market fit, or like Kano model comes out of. So product market fit is basically, you have a certain product, it delivers value in a certain way. You have a certain market, a certain problem. You can, keep one consistent and adjust the other, right? So if you know the particular target market you're going after, you can keep trying to adjust what the solution is until it fits their needs, or the opposite, right? If you have a set product and this is what it does and this is kind of always what it's going to do, then your question is, well, great, who gets the most value out of this, right? There was one startup in the region, and they were, see if I can describe this well, but they were working on some product that ended up like they could eject it into cells, and it actually stopped them from going through mitosis and dividing, right? And they were initially thinking some other use case, or it was something maybe around maybe it was like livestock fertilization or something, and then like, oh my god, this is a cancer solution, right? And once they realized they had something that could help address cancer, they're like, okay, that's a higher value market, let's go after that one, and rightly so, right? Some of the other models coming out of this, if you look at Kano model, that's basically trying to deal with how kind of common and expected is the feature of this product versus how rare and differentiated is a feature of this product. To the point where some features might be so cool and amazing that even just describing them to people, you haven't even built the feature yet, it's like, that's amazing, your product could do that? Oh, totally, it can. So you can see how people will get into a habit around vaporware of selling things they haven't made yet. If there are some features which are so cool and amazing and delighting to people that you're like, geez, I'll take a slice of that, right? The hard part of innovation management is that it often means informing and educating people on your product and having to grow that market. So this is really where the blue ocean strategy part comes, right? It's not just selling this cool new thing, it's informing them, hey, there's an awesome new thing, and I'm selling it to you, right? On the high end of this, from an innovation or from a corporate standpoint, it's trying to make sure that whatever this individual product is fits in and aligns with their portfolio, right? That there's some useful larger business context that this fits into, which is also then part of the driver of why mergers and acquisitions and why successful exits happen. Okay, I got 2.5 minutes and counting left, so see if I can cram in change management. But basically, it's just anything relating to people and processes. So this is a huge category, right? Because the people end is all kinds of stuff around culture and engagement, or training and development, or strategic HR, or do we have the capacity to do this? It could also maybe a bit on the negative end mean it's like, are we really in hot water and we need to look at some downsizing or right sizing? On more the process end, normally what you're hearing is process improvement. The tone there, if you're in that end of things, is that there's something where things are bloated. Your basic strategic direction, your business direction is right, but you're not efficient enough. And if you just chop out a bunch of processes, that efficiency will help. I'm rather skeptical about that. All the organizations that I see doing that, and remember, everything is diminishing returns, right? And so it's like, do you really need a fourth, fifth, sixth waste reduction process improvement project, or do you actually need to change your strategic direction? Do you need a better way to incent people? Do you need there's lots of other levers you can pull here, right? The other end of change management has more to do with the people side, training people up, better leadership, better teamwork, better anything on the people side to help deliver better results. And this is also a good reminder that change management at its kind of initial roots isn't just kind of the processes and the way you're working is going to change, but you're trying to kind of engage and trust build enough that whatever strategically you're trying to do is actually impossible to do, right? I've heard that time and time again. It's like, my idea is so good, but somehow in this implementation gap, it doesn't work, right? And it's like, yeah, because the people and processes really aren't zinging along, right? You could imagine too that this tends to mean medium and large enterprise, and there's an existing corpus of work, corpus of operations, lots of people that you then need to kind of steer in the right direction. We could go more into all this, but let's just high-level recap it. Strategic management, strategic planning is just getting your head on straight and figuring out what the right strategy, the right business model is that you're going to do. Innovation management is figuring out that right awesome product you're going to make, hopefully as cheaply as possible. Change management is all the people and processes that help you get there. That's it. Robert Ogilvie, Executive Strategist and EQ Coach. Talk to you guys soon.